My name is Adam Reisinger. My wife Jessica and I and our two sons Noah and Eli have really been at Grace Hill since the beginning. We were fortunate to be a part of one of the great churches that ultimately merged to become Grace Hill Church, and so we've gotten to be a part of the whole story of Grace Hill to this point, and are real excited about what God's doing in our church. The last few months at Grace Hill, God has really blessed us with very specific answers to very specific prayers. And there's a couple of ways in which I've seen that. First is, we've been praying for quite a while about God to give us just direction on our future and for Him to give us wisdom and guidance. And one of the ways that we had I feel like kind of threw a fleece out for God and asked for Him to show us something is specifically we asked God, will you send people to Grace Hill? It's wild to me, honestly, how quickly and dramatically He answered that prayer, and how He has really filled our church with people who I feel that He has specifically sent. I felt a real sense that God has sent the people that have come. Also, another way that I really feel like God has specifically answered a prayer is, we've been praying for a while to God for Him to give us a sense of wisdom as far as what we should do to be good stewards of our financial resources. Also, that kind of merged with prayers that we've been asking God for direction on, where should we be? The most striking thing for me in all of that was we had, these couple of properties that came on the market that several in our leadership evaluated. And I personally, I think this was a sense that a lot of us shared, but I personally just didn't feel any answer. Right, I didn't feel a real conviction one way or another, and some others had kind of interpreted that, and I think rightfully so, as God must be telling us to wait, and then to have what has happened as a result with this gift from God of this property and all the blessings that come along with it, to kind of come right on the heels of that sense of is God answering or is God not answering? And then boom. I think back to the last several years in our church, and all of this has made me see events that have happened over the last few years in a completely different light. I think about the difficult decision we made several years ago to sell property that we had. That was a big step of faith that our church made, and it was a step into the unknown and the uncertain. And just also with over the period of time and us learning to be a church that was more mobile, and we're having to be by design flexible and how we viewed our facilities and our space, and we had to really come together as a group of people, and we had to roll up our sleeves and do a lot of work, some of which was really hard and hot. And
last time.
And all that stuff really galvanized relationships, and I think it helped us all understand, me included, to really kind of focus on what was really important. There are a lot of things that are exciting to me about this. Number one is, and I said this when we were speaking to the church, is that we get to do this together. And the property is a gift unto itself, and just the fact that it is ours and it doesn't put the church in a financial burden is fantastic. That's super exciting, and it gives us the ability to look at our future, both near-term and long-term future, differently. But what really excites me is getting to see the people that God has been sending to do this together. I've really been reminded that God is ultimately the owner of the story. You know, in my personal life, I've had the benefit of some tough stuff happen as well. That's been, stuff that really shaped how Jessica and I think about life and the goodness of God. And, we've also had the benefit of, and I say benefit, of having gone through some hard things as a church together, and having made some tough decisions and gone through some difficulties, and all of those things. When you then get to see the longer version of the story and see what God does with even those things, it makes you look at life completely differently, and it makes you have that knowledge that God is the loving Father who is, even through hard things, is working for your good.